Is that cool or
That's fine. All right.
awesome?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anyone of modern consenting age that may be watching on this Internet of Stuff and Things, we are live with this week's So Far 2020 edition. Oh, wait, hold on. 8/20/20 edition. There we go. I have words and things like that. So, again, I'm brought back by Chris ONC, CM Fox down below, and we're just going to have a real quick chat, maybe 20 or so minutes, and maybe interact with the chat as folks roll in here. But basically, we're going to talk about some news. So the DNC is totally a thing, and it's been happening. Apparently, not as many people have been watching, seeing as it doesn't seem to have quite the same effect, seeing as it's basically just mostly an amalgamation of video clips and everything, which, well, folks can get online as well. I guess President Obama, as well as Michelle Obama, they made some nice speeches as well and everything. Folks seem to like that. Um, uh, yeah, and the other thing that I remember is I don't remember anyone really pledging any delegates for Representative Tulsi Gabbard from, I believe, America Samoa or anything, because I listened to the NBC clip of pretty much everybody pledging, and there were number of folks that were pledging for Bernie because, well, hey, that's how they work it, and yeah,
AOC and one of the union leaders
yeah,
said
no,
he's
no,
like, and
AOC
she has
was
a
in
big
there.
audience. So
We had no. She's a rock superstar. A lot of folks like her. A lot of folks dislike her. I think a lot of the same reason why folks dislike her, or why a lot of folks on the other side happen to dislike the president. But then again, she's also a congresswoman representing the great state of New York, and not the president of the United States. So
Thank
these things
God.
happen. So we got that, as well as Apple recently hit the first American company to hit a $2 trillion
and
market cap.
they hit 1 trillion not that long ago too. I know it was last year. I remember the day it happened because they were the second company. It was actually I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Right,
They hit it first.
Exxon or Microsoft.
Amazon and Microsoft were soon after. Tesla is like 2000 or just under 2000, and they were in the low threes earlier this year. But I mean, that's a whole different ball game. They haven't even really turned a profit. So
Well, I mean, let's say I still remember even in college and stuff, folks were talking about Amazon, and Amazon didn't get into the black for like, I don't know, at least 10 years and stuff. They were operating from the red, but if you looked at the business model of what they were doing, it's like, oh,
books.
well, even beyond that, the sheer fact that they were building a platform, yes, their initial niche was books and stuff like that, and they basically took out Barnes and Noble and stuff, kind of like Netflix took out Blockbuster. But the
Borders.
sheer well, I mean, Borders did some adapting and stuff like that, but then again, it's still more or less kind of the same thing
Yeah.
because when you have to have brick and mortar versus something where it's like, all right, you need some web storage, you need an administrator, and your overhead costs of operation and everything are just far lower as well. And the fact that now Amazon pretty much sells everything. So, where would you gentlemen like to go first? How about we go to the DNC and Chris? Let's go down to you because you've done some on the ground work for.
Yeah. For me, politics is supposed to be fun. That's what got me into it in the first place. It was, it was. I mean, obviously it's important. The issues are important, but gotta have fun. And I mean, this just looks so boring and miserable. And I understand things are a little bit different with the whole Wuhan flu, all that stuff, but come on, this is not some like backyard project that a bunch of amateur. These are very well funded, very I mean, they got everything. They got all the resources available to them, and this is the best they can muster. It just seems kind of disappointing. I mean, it's funny to watch some of the speeches. I haven't watched many of them. The ones that I have, it's like I'm screaming at them like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" Like, come on, you're accusing Trump. Oh, all these deaths are it's his fault, and what would you do different? Come on. But aside from that, I haven't watched much because it's boring. It's the same old stuff over and over again. Everything's Orange Man's fault.
I mean, it really does seem to be just like nonstop talking points. Like even when they're going through,
Yeah.
just like the nomination process and stuff like that. It's like, oh, hey, our next president, Joe Biden. Oh, next president,
right.
Joe Biden. It's like, okay, yes, I watched Harry Potter. I realized 3 times for maximum retention. But when you say it frickin' like 50 plus times, I'm just like, I just want to put my head kind of through a wall. I don't know. What we got, Fox?
I mean, I think blaming Trump is smart on their part because a lot of people, especially in recent years of politics, you don't vote for someone, you're voting against the other person, and especially the Democrats need to, prevent what happened in 2016 from reoccurring again. Not having your candidate not show their face, being on TV. Voter apathy is no joke. Even without put COVID aside for a moment, people not showing up to the polls, that, have that in a couple different areas of Ohio, Pennsylvania, it's lights out.
Well, that is the counter to all of that and
Fear and
everything. It's
anger
like
is a powerful motivator,
well, the sheer fact that Joe Biden, at least to many people, represents some symbol of normalcy and everything like that. That's why I believe there was an article that said, "Joe, we just need your corporeal presence and everything. We
He is
just
a career
need."
politician, but you know what you're going to get. And then obviously the Republicans are going to paint him as having dementia. So you're going to get the extremes from either side. Either you have like a zombie with dementia, or you have a guy that's an insane narcissist. So
Yeah,
I'd rather have an insane narcissist who's at least honest. You know exactly what's on his mind, and it gets him in trouble every single day. I would
out of
prefer-
320
personally,
million people, why
I
can't you have
prefer
someone
that.
else?
well, that's also where Brett Weinstein's Articles of Unity campaign come into effect, where basically if there actually was a groundswell, which, I mean, is it possible? It's absolutely possible. Is it probable? I mean, I have no idea. We need to see if there was a catalyzing event wherever you had enough folks saying, F this, is there another option? And all of a sudden, that's why you do the insurgent. All of a sudden, we have these two moderate things. I know he actually had a campfire, digital campfire with Dan Crenshaw. Actually, I believe it was yesterday. They were on for a while. You listened to it. It was actually, they were supposed to have Representative Gabbard's on as well, but Tulsi's actually out doing her National Guard service.
Yeah, but she lost her own thing in Hawaii, I thought, a week or two ago.
Well, I mean, she wasn't campaigning for re-election.
But wasn't she in it and lost, or no?
I don't think so. No, she announced earlier during her campaign that she wasn't going to seek re-election.
Okay.
So I mean, she'll probably be, let's face it, like a Fox News correspondent or something like that. I mean, that's just kind of like how I see it. Just because every time she was on MSNBC, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, you're simping for like frickin' Assad or something like this. It's like, wait. So you're saying she's being friendly with people that many of us over here don't like because she's trying to have peace talks and end wars overseas.
But she was never like her and Yang, and I like Yang. He was like my favorite one. But a lot of those people have like no chance to begin with. When you peak at like 1 or 2%, you're gonna take you're gonna write a book and then become like a Fox, CNN, MSNBC correspondent. You can't blame people for doing that.
So let me ask you this specifically with respect to Yang, because while I think actually Tulsi would likely be a better leader, I think one of the things that she does kind of lack on the national stage is a certain level of charisma that Andrew Yang, I believe, in my opinion, had a bit more of
He
as
was
well.
also
But
the smartest one on the stage. It was quite evident.
well, either between him or Mayor Pete. I mean, they both seem like very brilliant individuals. As far as Andrew, let me ask you this: if the media had gotten kind of behind Andrew Yang, if all of a sudden, like every at least 1 hour a day on major cable and other news platforms, you see Andrew Yang, bust out star, Andrew Yang, Democratic, he has all these ideas, and he's like smart, and he knows the math. Like if they had pushed it, you don't think he could have actually seen a surge?
Yeah, I mean, what he had on his side though was he had a larger internet following than everyone, and he was able to use the internet well. Like he can use social media effectively, and Elon Musk was like touting him for a while. Vitalik Buterin, like the genius, in his early 20s for like Ethereum, the crypto, like a lot of like brilliant people, that are into tech, like seem to back him. UBI, I mean, you can make an argument for or against it, but I mean, and regardless of how you feel, like literally the Trump administration implemented some, not, like lifetime
cash payments to the American people.
Yeah,
I mean, Andrew Yang looks like a freaking genius right now and everything, because so many of the things that he were touting actually would have helped us through the situation we're currently in. And I stand by that up to $6.2 trillion stimulus package that President Trump, a conservative, was highly promoting there, if you divide by 210 million adult Americans, comes just shy of $30,000 per adult American. You're saying that 10 grand a month for 3 months of UBI for everybody. So if you're working, guess what? For working, you're getting a $30,000 bonus. For staying home, yeah, you lose your pay, but you get 30 grand to survive on. You're saying we couldn't have figured this out in like 3 months? CM Fox, we're hearing you. I think you're doodling on your phone.
No, it was probably my stomach. I've been fasting.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
congratulations.
I got a question for you as far as that goes. So you've got the 30,000 per person if you do the math that way, but what about the businesses that have had to shut down and haven't been able to reopen or have had to reopen at limited capacity or with certain restrictions? I understand, obviously, you want the money to go to the people, but I mean, what would be the ideal scenario? Like, how would you handle the business end of it? Because although they're not people, they are sort of an extension of people.
Companies are people, my friend. It's just something that I remember from Governor Romney as well. Well, okay, so here's the situation. Okay, businesses have to close. How do businesses raise money when they need money? They issue this thing called stock.
If it's a
So
public, if it's a
no. But you can do it privately. You can do it privately as well. Because one of the big things that I've heard about is, well, the airline industry, it's a critical industry. How do we get it? Like, well, the airline does employ a lot of folks. So let's say the airline employs, I don't know how many, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 people. You're saying that like 100,000 people with $30,000 of additional income available, if the company was treating their employees right and said, you know what, we're all going to offer a discount option so you could have the employees actually invest in their own company. So it's almost like, oh, maybe we could actually have employee ownership of companies. So we're using a fair-based method because this is why you want to keep spending in check for emergencies like these when you need to swipe the government credit card. So you actually have that actual credit line. So you can be like, okay, we got to spend $6 trillion. Why? Because the freaking plague is here. Okay, we're going to spend $6 trillion. We're going to eradicate this damn thing and we're going to move on with our lives because I want to go to the goddamn beach. That's also the right thing to do. So.
But you can't go to the beach in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine.
I probably could. I also kind of feel bad, and I don't know. You want to go to the beach?
Your choice. Not that they've shut them down.
Let me put it this way. I went to a watering hole. I went down to the Legion for one of my friend's birthdays a couple of weeks ago. They have an outside deck. I went there. I'm like, okay, we got outside. I'm like, well, so what happens? Do I order a drink out here? I go inside, and actually that place actually has pretty decent ventilation because it's a private establishment. So they have those special fans and stuff that help suck up the smoke and everything. So you can actually see how the airflow is working in there. And even when I was in there, man, I'm sitting there, I'm like, if there are a sick person or two here and I'm hanging out here long enough, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to get sick. So eventually, I said my highs, I said my byes. Right. But there also was a number of folks indoors. Like, there was a deck. But this is why I think I'm hearing governors Cuomo and even Baker, they're going over, well, what is a meal? Is a grilled cheese a meal? Is tomato soup a meal? And they're literally having the Seinfeld discussion and argument. It's like, what constitutes a meal? So now they're saying things like, all right, so you can't just order, like, I don't know, a single chicken fajita or an order of fries. Whatever you have with food, you need to have in front of you. Because a lot of times you go to a bar, you go to a pub, yeah, you want to grab a beer or so, and you want to socialize with folks because that's what you go down there. Because you can always drink alone, but I mean, that's just not really my thing. But I look there and I'm like, I can see how this would totally spread the virus around and everything. So I can understand the actions. I'm still not a fan of it, but that's why it's also like, I could go out, but I don't know. I'm kind of cooped up, and the Canadian border's still closed, so.
Until September 21st, and then it'll get pushed back again, I guarantee, after that Monday.
Crazy stuff.
The one thing with the stock options, though, is I'd be a little wary of that, too. Because there's a lot. I think it's more beneficial to potentially put the money directly in the hands of the people. Although, depending on the stock, much better investment because of the devaluation of the dollar. but most people don't work at Google and Apple and all those places. A lot of people, like, I know it's personal responsibility, but if they're in the market, exposure is great. A lot of them would just get liquidated and wrecked, though. That'd be my fear.
I mean, possibly, but then again, it's like I'm looking at how things are going. And it's like, does anyone have a perfect answer? Well, obviously not, and everything. We are where we are right now.
We can't get an answer because the media doesn't even talk about how there were trillions and trillions of dollars printed. Like you know my rant on that, my whole spiel. Like we're talking about, and I'm not trying to downplay Black Lives Matter or the pandemic or anything, but what we talked about before, if you try to get like a gallon of milk and it's like $7, that can be somewhat hyperbole. Like, yeah, that's.
Oh no, inflation is already here. You look at the price of beef and stuff; it's already up. Seems like up a couple 100%. Even my guilty pleasures, my cosmic brownies that were 50 cents. Like, dude, as soon as this happened, like a month and a half later, it's like, all right, 59 cents. It's like, dude, you already went up like almost 20% in like less than 2 months. It's like, oh dear, it's here. And folks notice it. Like, the best meme I ever saw for this was the shopping cart meme, because it's like, you go back 20 years, it's like, this is what $20 will get you. And you at least got a decent bit of the shopping cart, at least the first layer, covered. It's like, all right, 10 years ago, all right, you get a fair bit less, and it's like, all right, now. And it's like, all right, you got like 3 things.
The little basket the kids sit in or whatever on the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, all right, you got that.
Section.
You got maybe some beef and a half gallon of milk.
People also, I don't know hard data on this, but I'm pretty confident in saying people's diets are a lot worse than it used to be too.
I mean, we also have the choice as well and stuff like that. It's part of the benefits of capitalism as well.
Well, we also subsidize like high fructose corn syrup.
Well, I mean, it's corn sugar, I believe, is the term that they like to put out. But to be a good host, we're actually going to just take a quick cruise through the chat to say hi to people, because people like being acknowledged. So I see you there, Wookie Austinator. We got Jesse Miller as well as one of my patrons, Joe Franco. Shout out to my patrons, Joe Franco and Dave M. as well as we got Thomas Conley rolling through, along with Bone. We got Functional, Orbs Board. Orbs, we need to get together for another Beards of Destruction podcast. We're slowly getting back there, as well as we have Arakin. He works on Project NewsQuest as well as we have Tidern / Planet Bob, aka Uranus. I added-libbed a little bit there, as well as I think we got everybody there. Oh, and Tommy in the Guinea Pig Collective. Hey Tommy, how we doing, brother? So, all right, so we covered that. Let's talk about Apple. How much is Apple worth now?
$2 trillion market cap.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's more than most countries.
Well, I can totally say I've contributed to this, as I'm speaking on a Mac-based computer right now, and I think everybody here is actually has a Mac-style device, so we are completely perpetuating and supporting it. Well, exactly.
But to be fair, for operating systems for mobile and desktop, there's only like 2 or 3 other choices really. Most people, for a mobile, most people don't use Windows. That's but for PC,
they tried.
Yeah,
it was an idea.
And Amazon tried with the phone too, and that bombed. But you're really just using Android, which is Google, and then Apple, and seldom Linux, but that's for a specific.
I think the Windows Phone was supposed to be based off of Windows 10 or something along those lines, and they tried. A lot of folks, like even one of my buddies, Drunk Kyle and stuff like that, he wanted one of those phones, but he also kind of has the generalized mindset of, I want to do this, but I don't know. Apple just it kind of works. I've had Android. I like my Androids and stuff like that.
But Windows still has a huge market of for like laptops and desktops, though. Still, at least.
Well, that's the thing. What do we think about our first $2 trillion market cap company? Because how long ago were they only at $1 trillion?
I'd have to pull it up, but I know it's probably like a year or less. They really exploded.
Yeah, it's exponential, but I don't know. I held off. I was trying to stay Android, and I was big into the Google Pixel when that came out, but I caved recently, so now it's now it's all Mac for me, but
Yeah, because their user interface is just
it's fucking
so,
awesome.
yeah.
It's so good. The camera's
But buying into a
incredible.
brand too. Granted, the malls with COVID, but think of pre-COVID. You could like walk in with like a little issue, and like you're the Genius Bar. They're able to build like a quality rapport. You're buying into the brand and the service as well.
Yeah.
They're very, very good with that. You go in, they have I think they have like little like educational classes.
They
The thing
do
with
offer
Apple-
those as well. Yeah, no.
They make it. You could be 80 years old and figure out Apple with their user interface, or you can be a little.
My mom figured out. She's got an iPhone now, and if you had told me that 3 years ago, I would have called you completely fake.
Yeah,
but
and after a couple of weeks,
no problem.
Probably,
Yeah,
not
I mean, she
mastered
still
it,
has
but
troubles
after a
from
couple
time
weeks-
to
after a
time,
couple
but
weeks, she was probably like,
just the
fine
fact that
with
she went from a flip phone that you pull the antenna out to an iPhone with relatively little trouble. They got a good product, and can't argue with that. The results kind of speak for themselves, I guess.
It's an intuitive design. It's pretty easy to use. You can have multiple demographics, whether it's very young kids or even older folks that really haven't used something like that before. It's like, all right, I touch this, I go there, it works. They have the whole customer support. And I'll go back to getting my very first laptop back in the day from Circuit City. All of a sudden I have issues, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I go into Circuit City. And I'm like, hi, could you help me with my issue? And they're like, oh, well, you got to ship that to the manufacturer. We ain't doing anything like that for you. And I'm like, oh, well, this sucks. And I am speaking to you gentlemen right now on a laptop that I managed to fry the logic drive twice by consuming far too much pornography on. And they replaced it both times free of charge and were very nice about it.
They didn't shame you?
Oh, I shamed myself. I told them right out.
Last time I brought mine in, they go up back and they change the settings. One person came back crying. One person came back throwing up, and then another person had my phone in a bag and they were wearing a hazmat suit. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's possible. I mean, well, dude, here's the thing. Think about all those mods for Facebook or Twitter and stuff like that. Like all those devs, they have to go through like people's private messages when things get flagged and stuff. You're like, oh dear God, some of the things people must see. It's like, dude, power to those folks. It's like I really wouldn't want that job.
Yeah, but to be fair, like I'm not worried about them going through my stuff. First off, I'm not really worried. I'd just be more worried about like, oh crap, did I make a note with my banking info, like copy and paste. But like, if you're an attractive like young woman, then it's like you're worried about them going through and like taking their phone to take a picture of, you know what I mean, stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean, like in like a creepy way. But I have nothing I'd be worried about. It'd be more of just like if I had anything in my notes page, you know what I mean, like a password or like any kind of like
any sensitive
financial
info.
Yeah, that's what I'd be worried about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like the odds of them doing that is like I'd be more worried about just someone, you know what I mean, just hacking you like normally.
Well, the one thing that the internet has taught me over the years is, all right, as freaky as and as effed up as I am, I cruise around the net and I see other things and I'm like, oh, we really are more similar than we are different. I just don't think a lot of folks really want to admit it. And the older and older I get, I sit back and I'm like, I don't know. Was Freud right? Maybe I'm just completely projecting here, because that was the part where I'm like, oh no, he's wrong. He's obviously projecting upon everyone else. I'm like, I don't know. Is he? How many people have actually accepted themselves? I don't know. I'm working on it every day. But, that's the thing. But to get back to Apple, I'm curious, have they launched other markets and stuff like that as well? Because I would imagine they've probably gone into other markets, or like you were saying, it's like a lot of folks were holding out for other things, and if you have used an iPhone, an iPad, or something like that before, you know what, maybe is it the best of the best of that particular generation? Probably not. There's probably much more powerful and other things there. But generally, you know what you're getting. You're going to end up getting a quality product. Are you going to pay extra for that product? Oh, hell yeah, you're totally going to pay for it. But it's also my 2012 and a half laptop, man. Freaking lasted 3.5 times longer than any other thing, and it still kind of works. I was still able to at least stream very basic content. I really couldn't do anything else. I really couldn't share or do anything like that because it would probably blow up, but that's the thing, dude. It was a workhorse. It just kept going. So I can understand that as well.
back to what you had said
Right.
that direction. Back to what you had said about the intuitive design. I had read, I think it was a Steve Jobs biography or something, or it might have been someone else who was involved with Apple. This is going back a few years, but I remember one of the things that really stood out was that when they were designing the iPad, whoever it was, and I wish I could remember the details specifically, but they were in some, I think it was some country, kind of no technology, very primitive sort of stuff, and in a cafe fiddling with this prototype. And like some kid, was in there or whatever, and he lets the kid play with it, and he just figured it out right away. Some kid that doesn't have a computer, no electricity, in some third world country, I'll find the exact tidbit, but that was like, wow, okay, that's how they're designing this, so that someone who zero clue can pick it up and make it work, can figure it out, touch, drag, tap, whatever.
I walked in back in the yeah, no, dude, I walked in back in the day to the phone store and I was looking to grab a BlackBerry, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, $99 and I can snag an iPhone because it was the previous generation. I'm like, huh,
Yeah,
that seems like an idea.
that's the thing. I guess I'm a hypocrite here. I got the iPhone 11 now, which is awesome because of the camera. But yeah, if you go with the previous generation, or generation one or two, older than the most current, you can get it for a lot cheaper and still incredible technology.
They have a great like policy too. Like when you like kind of trade in your old one, they don't. It's not like, remember going to like the video game stores, like, oh, I'll give you last year's version of Madden. All right, here's a nickel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no,
you
for
owe
Apple,
us $1 for taking
Apple,
your game.
No, Apple, they're good with it. Like you give your old phone, like I think you get a couple $100 for like a lot of.
Depending on the model, they will give you a fairly decent core charge that basically goes towards it.
Yeah, too, because they're keeping you in. Within brand. One thing I think is going to be like one of the next shifts will be to see how they utilize or break into, I should say, like augmented reality. You know what I mean? Because Google Glasses were being touted as a big thing. Like, what happened to that? Like, I don't see.
I haven't heard anything about them in a while.
I've seen like a couple people walk around with it, and people just like look at the dudes like wearing like dude, like, stop taking a picture.
I considered joining the pilot program for that. I saw some folks using them in Boston before.
But this is years ago.
Well, I know. I remember this because
why hasn't it like in like 5 years?
There could be a number of reasons. I think one of the primary reasons was primary concerns, just because at least like if you have a phone, if you're holding a fold up or you're recording things, it's generally there. You could literally just look with your eyes and then potentially be. I think that may have been one of the reasons. There may be additional reasons that I am unaware of as well.
You can have spy cams. You could have like you could have a pen in like your dress shirt pocket, and they have ones with built-in cameras. You know what I mean? There's always a way to like get it.
They're also usually not manufactured by a multi-billion/trillion-dollar company that basically has contracts and stuff like that all over the world, as well as knows more about some people than they might know about themselves. But I'm just thinking that's an additional factor as well. But all right, so we've covered some of the Apple. Any other stories? I know we had another story over here in
Netflix.
In the side shack. Ah, yes, Netflix. I did a little rant on that as well.
You just did a video about that, even.
Yeah. No, I helped convene this, and then I ran away, and we did that as well. So yes, Netflix essentially on September 9th, they're getting ready to release a Netflix original series that I believe won several awards at one of the Sundance Film Festivals. It's called Cuties. It basically follows an 11-year-old girl over in France who I believe the initial definition or the way they described it was basically in order to rebel against her parents, found a group that basically focuses on twerking and other such dance moves. Yeah. And I guess some of the cover art basically think like, I don't know, Bring It On, kind of like with the cheerleaders, except with like, I don't know, like 10, 11-year-old girls. In my opinion, it seems like the blatant sexualization of children.
Let me ask you this. I know you made a video specifically about that topic. And not to deviate from that, but the whole Cardi B, Joe Biden interview, what does that say about the culture that we're living in and what's acceptable, what's considered, someone to look up to or not? I mean, I understand people want to say Trump's not, sort of figure you want to look up to, but Cardi B, are you kidding me? Like, it'd be one thing if Joe was going around doing interviews with everyone, But the one interview he's done, Cardi B, and like
Nah,
his,
I would
mean,
disagree a little bit because out of all like the
well,
rappers and stuff,
who's her
she's
target
actually,
audience? I don't know her. I mean, I know of her.
no, but she's been involved in politics more like out of like all the rap. Like she did stuff with like Bernie and other people. Like I get your point, but I mean, look at Trump and Kanye. How is that any different?
Well, I mean, just look at President Donald Trump. I mean, we have a reality TV star as president. Yes, he has a number of other things, but until more recently, he was doing The Apprentice and everything, a top-rated show on NBC.
How many followers on Instagram and Twitter and like all these other platforms does Cardi have? She's probably in the top 10 or 20, I'd imagine.
I mean, and that's the thing. You can kind of say, oh, well, it's Cardi B because of all this, and I've heard people make that argument, but it's kind of like Fox was saying. It's like, oh, well, she has reach. She has reach. There are a lot of folks that don't like the president. Yeah,
she has a bigger social media reach, I bet, than Trump. I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's find out.
Katy Perry is, and Taylor Swift, I think, are like triple Trump.
You can have the reach, but you also need the engagement. And one of the pluses and minuses to President Trump with his 60 to 80 million Twitter followers is the fact that people also amplify it, for better or worse.
Yeah, both sides do.
That's the thing. You can't escape it because this is one of those things. I'm just like, all right, to my comrades on the left, I'm like, dude, if you really want to stick it to the president, you want to know how you defeat him? You unfollow him. I literally did a video on it. It's like I put it to Godzilla Final Wars music. It's like, duh, duh. It's like click, unfollow, and then end with Final Fantasy VII. Da, 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 da. Because it's like, all right, if all of a sudden he lost 10 million followers that were just hate following him, you don't think that's going to hit him in the ego? Yeah, he might say he doesn't care, but you know what? He's going to notice. He's going to notice there. And why do you need to follow him if you're going to hear about all the salacious stuff anyway? I mean, it's not like you're just trying to be a Trump reply guy and just, or gal, or whatever you may identify as, and just kind of like get the quick insert there, a little quip, and try to get some followers and likes and just earn some internet points. I mean, that would just be like people like promoting themselves, I guess. I don't know.
The people that are like in the videos, no one cares. Like if someone like hates Cardi B, you know what I mean? They're a Trump supporter. Like if it had been the other way, like showing the other foot, if she was like, you know, getting behind Trump wearing the red hat, they'd say, "Oh no, she's great. You know, she's a brilliant marketer. Look at her." You know what I mean? It just cuts to like, you know, reaffirming her own like bias.
There's no denying that she's obviously talented at whatever it is she does, but it just seems like you're gonna do one interview and you're gonna choose Cardi B. Like you're running for president. Like
who else would have more followers? Like I agree. Like
she's got 13.5 million on Twitter versus Trump's 80. How many is it?
Look at her Instagram though.
How was she as an interviewer?
It didn't seem very intelligent. I didn't watch the entire thing. I probably watched about half.
I haven't seen it, so
yeah. It just it did not project like I know what I'm talking about and I'm asking questions that actually matter. It was a lot of, you know, I want black people to stop being like murdered by the police.
I mean,
it's predictable. It's what you would expect.
Now,
this is the same person that talks about, you know.
Did Vice President Biden ask her to take a drug test?
No, but he said, I'm Joe B and you're Cardi B, so maybe we're related. Like he's stupid shit like that. But I mean, it just came across like, you know,
I mean, it's a dad joke. You can't really. I mean, I would say that if one's gone.
This is the one little bit we're seeing is with Cardi F and B.
Let's make a comparison though. Do you think that interview or her going out there like touting Biden could get some people that might stay home to go out and vote? Just yes or no? Yes or like, well, some people. Some.
No, I don't see it making much of a difference with her specifically. Could have been anyone, and it's going to be the same effect.
Would get more people out to vote for Biden than having some, you know, brilliant, you know, guy, or it's more effective.
To Steelman Chris's point for just a second, let's not forget that Secretary Clinton did have that giant bash concert where you had, I think, like 100,000 people show up. Now, as far as translating into votes, what I heard a lot of the pundits saying is it didn't really necessarily transfer into any votes, or at least many votes, because a lot of folks there were there to see the celebrities and their favorite musicians. The counter to that is Donald Trump is actually now the president of the United States, so he's actually there, and if folks aren't fans of him, the sheer fact that they're made more aware that you have Joe, and I think one of the differences between Vice President Biden and Secretary Clinton is there were a lot of folks that just really disliked Secretary Clinton. And I think there are a lot of folks there, they might not like Joe Biden, but I don't think they don't really hate or necessarily
He's being
dislike him.
painted as having dementia, not being evil. There's a big difference.
Well, that's the thing. If he's kind of like the goofy grandpa or something like that, because I've literally had folks that, even one of the last times I went out to a bar until much more recently, where literally I'm talking to a young lady and she's kind of like, oh, what do you think about Biden or something like that? I'm like, I don't really think his heart's in it. I don't really think he wants to run. I think he feels like he has to. And just in my mind and opinion, she was just kind of like going through like the mental processes of saying, okay, so if I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, is it okay? How am I going to do this? Well, he doesn't really want to be there, but he's not Trump.
And any vote is okay. People that say otherwise are just a bunch of schmucks. You know, if someone says, oh, if you vote for Trump or not Trump, or Biden or not Biden, you know, you're going to be putting in fascism or communism. Most of those people are like, you know, like I question like their intelligence, just like attaching a term. Most people are just, you know, they think of the extreme. At the end of the day, it's like, no, dude, you're not that important.
Well,
you're one person.
we also, and this is the thing, the president also only has so much power. Yeah, the president's got the frickin' football and can literally obliterate the world. However, aside from that, as far as getting legislation passed, it's like, yeah, you still got to work for Congress. Yeah, if you do something out there, yeah, the court can strike you down.
I guess my point is a lot of the people that have like the most extreme points of view for like you have to vote for this person or the other person or not for a person. There's a lot of self like you know, a lot of like feelings of grandeur, like, you know, grandiosity. You know what I mean? Just like a lot of people are just like insecure.
Well, a lot of folks want to be sure in what they're doing
in life, and they just feel like, you know, no, we got, you know, like if you're voting for, you know, if you don't, you know, take out Trump, you know, and you know, you vote for Trump or you don't vote for Biden, fascism's going to take over the country, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of which it is, a lot of it's just kind of like, slow down, man. Just like, a lot of it's just blown way out of proportion.
Well, that's the thing.
People to take action.
And like, if Biden is elected, it's like, you know, we come down to like, even if you're president, like, yeah, you're incredibly powerful, but you know, there's still a lot of other like factors, you know.
That's the thing. For somebody, and you know what, I could be completely wrong, but for it to have such a decisively hard swing one direction or the other, it's like you would need some major impetus. You would need just massive voting on just the local level for folks to go in that direction. I mean, is it possible? Sure, anything is freaking possible, but as far as like you were saying, is it probable? It's like, well, very often, let's face it, what makes news? Usually the lowest hanging fruit on whatever the heck side it is. Why is that the case? Well, because those are the things that make stories. Because, well, let's face it, we like to make fun of people that we don't like because it's fun, and we want to...
Sorry, here's an answer. Like, one of the people in the chat, Jesse Miller, he says, I have zero respect for anyone who isn't smart enough to vote for Donald Trump.
I think he's responding to you. I think it's a little bit of satire.
Level issue. Like, I'm sorry, Jesse, but no. Like, no. There's geniuses and people that are not intelligent at all that vote for Biden and for Trump. Like, let's roll out like an IQ test. Like, I'll take down a lot of people.
Well, I mean, well,
and there are like the smartest person in the world, like IQ wise, and that's not even a good gauge of intelligence, is voting for Trump. And I know the person who's number two. They're both American, like middle-aged men. The other guy is definitely on the other side. Like, that's pretty silly to think. You know what I mean? There aren't people that are going to be like multiple standard deviations above like the mean. You know, like for IQ that are going to vote one way or for the other. That's just like pigeonholing yourself into something.
Well, my big thing is people are entitled to their opinions, just like other people are entitled to disagree as well. It's just you run into issues where you start to push your opinions and your beliefs upon other people. That sounds like authoritarianism, whichever way you're going. So
yeah, don't be sorry, get some sense, dummy. Yeah, you're right. I guess intelligence-wise, I'm not like that smart.
Oh,
I would argue with that. You're pretty smart.
Yeah,
I hate I
can
hate
only
to
do
be a bummer.
algorithms
I gotta
in
hit
my
the
head.
road. I gotta bounce.
All
Like
right.
5 minutes or so. So
okay.
do
So
I
how about this?
continue, or-
Final thoughts. Let's wrap up. Chris, give us your final thoughts for stuff and things going on so far this week.
Things going on this week. I got to see the interview today. Part of it of the guy that we spoke about last week, the victim of the Portland chaos and whatever. He's alive. He looks in rough shape. He's out of the hospital. Out for 2 days, I guess. So I was happy to see that. The DNC, like I said, was sort of disappointing. I'm going to go back and watch more of the videos and as much as I can, really, just to get a better understanding of it. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the RNC is like, because I think they're going to really do a good job. I just maybe I'm suspecting it's going to be a lot better than the DNC.
I think they're both going to be lame. The DNC has been lame so far. I think Trump's
still doing rallies. He's going to the airports, doing the hangar rallies and stuff. I mean, he can get a crowd. And if he gets a crowd, if it's live in person, at least for the most part, it doesn't have to all be like that. But I think that just that fact alone is going to make it, just light years better than the DNC.
I think the RNC is going to be full of a lot of trolling. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah.
I think the RNC will be like pretty much garbage as well as the DNC has been. I think this time around it will be
Isn't all politics garbage?
No,
well,
not if you get another $1,200 check. I think something just like that's gonna be a bigger impact on the election. If a $1,200 check rolls into someone's bank account and they're having trouble paying their mortgage or their rent, or car payment, it happens 2 weeks before the election. You know what I mean? People can have little Twitter wars about this or that and throw words like socialism, fascism. You know what I mean? So if you get cash, you get cash.
Well,
right.
I think at this point, #YangGang. So thank you all for watching. That's all we got for right now. Shoutouts again to my patrons, Joe Franco, along with Dave M. But hey, thank you all for watching. Peace out, everybody. And long live the elbow bump.